dreams and thoughts. Think ahead and prophesy concerning all tomorrows. Wonder how the sighted can refuse to see. Question if humanity will fall or rise. Find no easy answers. There's no modern augury. Half laugh, for there are those who doubt my sanity. I will have to admit that this poem is probably the one that made me laugh the hardest. Old Soul, I contacted him and said, I need a word. Do you have a word for me? And he said, no time, no time, laters. And I said, laters it is. And he laughed and said, this is why I love you. And off he went, and off I went. And so this is my laters poem. And it still makes me laugh. No time right now, I'll do it laters. Gotta feed the alligators, water the tomatoes and the taters, make the bed and find my waiters. No time right now, I'll do it laters. The moon needs 17 new craters. Do something about those trolls and haters. Maybe shove 'em in broken incubators. No time right now, I'll do it laters. Ice the rink and bring in skaters. Clean out my refrigerators. Wrangle all 11th graders. No time right now, I'll do it laters. While anything might inspire greatness, I'll tell you it helps to have really good friends. Visually inspired. I will tell you honestly, if all you have to do is look at the fairgrounds. There are so many beautiful places and impossibly placed vignettes that you know the builder has to wonder if anyone is ever going to notice. And so if you take the time to cam very carefully around and go out of the way, often you can find things that maybe no one else has noticed, but oh, the beauty. This is one of the reasons I find the fair so incredibly inspirational, is because of all of the beauty that is built into this place. There are a number of poems that I have identified for visually inspired. The Gondolier Traveller, Where Do You Wander? A Question for the White Stag, Who Goes There? And Will You Dance? Gondolier. Bring me to my true love's side, gondolier. He was carried away by death's tide. Loneliness and I now marry, groom and bride. Bring me to my true love's side, gondolier. Take me where I long to go, gondolier, beyond the noise into the silences below, where peace and the quietness of night both bloom and grow. Take me where I long to go, gondolier. The next one is Traveller, Where Do You Wander? And I will have to admit, when I first saw this avatar, I didn't know the backstory. I now know that this is the Spirit Valley of Kurik, that this is one of the cubs. But at the time, I had none of that backstory and all of these questions about where this child would be going by themselves. And so this is what came of that question. Traveller, traveller, where do you wander? What set you on the road at such a young age? What will you learn now freed from your cage? May your lessons be easy. May you grow to be sage. Traveller, traveller, where do you wander? Will the paths that you travel be easy and sweet? What dangers will you face? What troubles meet? What sorrows you face? May you always defeat. Traveller, traveller, where do you wander? Do you know the world is unkind, chilling, and bleak? That it doesn't always cherish folks so unique? May you find all the good things for which you seek. Traveller, traveller, where do you wander? I agree, Ami, that everything can be something other than what it is. I think that's one of the most important things that you can possibly understand as a writer, that everything comes from something else, that it doesn't have to be just one way. A question for the White Stag. Why is wisdom ascribed to those things rare? Wisdom carries experience and knows how and when to dare. Wisdom holds insight, and with that understanding. Wisdom isn't biased, holds compassion, rejects demanding. Wisdom is sage and knows the unknown will have its time, but will be replaced by knowledge as one begins to climb. Hold not so tight you break that within your hand. Release the thought that life must be as you have planned. Who goes there? Who goes there? Who comes behind me? I can hear your steps, the past chases and memories echo loud against the wood. 'Tis not the way. The way is forward. To the future I climb, for good or ill, my destiny is there. Who goes there? 'Tis I. This next poem, Will You Dance, is the one exception in the book where I do not know who the person in the doorway is. I don't have permission to use that image, but I don't know that anyone will ever be able to identify someone from the back. But what happened was I captured the image. This person was outside of my chat range. I captured the image and went to try to figure out who it was, and by the time I got there, that person was gone. So I have absolutely no idea. Will you dance? Will you dance to the sounds of the canon, drum, and flute, while the sands blow and drift through the nighttime sky? The natar churs a counterpoint, speaking to the dunes. Grains of sand lift, swirl, and sweep, their song but a sigh. The moon, in amusement, watches in her celestial sphere and completes the steps to wax her crescent face, and asks the stars, I have heard authors say that they don't like the question, where do your ideas come from? And it's a tough question, because they come from everywhere, they come from nowhere, and I can't explain where some of these ideas do come from, why they pop out of my head, and why my fingers must have them out. I will admit that if I am in the car driving and don't have a piece of paper and pencil so that I can pull over and write, those poems are lost. If I'm getting ready and almost asleep and something drifts through my head and I don't get up to write them, those poems are lost. In this particular instance, I've taken 3 poems, one called After the Ball, one called You Should, and one called Stories Unwritten. I think you're right, Gwen. I absolutely think that you're right. That it just pops into your head and there it is. I have characters that have appeared to me fully formed. They are just there, holding conversations with me and yelling at me to start telling their story. It just happens. After the Ball. 'Tis silent now, and echoes are the only sound, where once grace, chivalry, and beauty did abound. The floor is empty, the band is gone, the fair folk danced here until it was dawn. I see a shoe under that stone, a hanky lost, a mask now thrown, the detritus of the Fae now gone, but you can still hear their mystic song. Did some human come by magic means, and fled then back into the waking world, where they were out of time as time unfurled? Now empty is the cavernous hall, save for the memories of the ball. Yes, Gwen, they do. Yes, Gwen, they absolutely do. My favorite was a conversation with a character I was having, and she said, "If you do this, I'm going to die." And I said, "Then fine, you're going to die," and I killed her. That was the end of her. It worked well. The next one is called You Should. "You should change," said the wind to the tree as it riffled her leaves. "You should dance." "I dance," said the tree. "I dance in the night time when the stars sing my name. I dance in the wildness of the storm, in summer and in winter. I dance in the quiet times when bird song is of love. I dance." "You should change," said the wind to the ocean as he blew across the surface. "You should dance." "I dance," said the ocean. I dance with you. You seem not to know. I dance when the hurricane blows and when the zephyr ripples. I dance with the moon when she pulls me close in her embrace." "You should change," said the wind to the universe, shouting into the abyss. "You should dance." "I dance," said the universe. "My dance is different than yours. My dance is slower than you, and has gone on longer than you can know. That you don't see it doesn't mean the dance isn't there. You should learn," said the universe. When I have been haunting the various regional tours that Safia has led, and they are brilliant tours for asking questions and allowing for things to grow. And we were in I'm going to mess that name up, Autumninium, and people were talking about, Safia had pointed out that the green was only in this one place, and people were talking, and all of a sudden I said, yeah, what if the townspeople are actually trapping them, the will-o-wisps, and are holding them captive, and the whole thing kind of just twisted into this really horror-based story in this very beautiful sim, which has nothing to do with its background at all, but it was really a twist on what I think the sim builder had intended. Stories unwritten. Bucolic beauty in such a quiet place, a land of autumn, such a lovely space. There may be things we should be fearing, seems land magic's disappearing. The only place 'tis springtime is by the sacred stones, ere else the seasons hasten and now bring autumnal tones. The will-o-wisps still frolic where the druids once held sway, else they have fled the ground, the dirt, and the very clay. One thing more of notice that leaves its own strange stamp. The wisps seem to be imprisoned in the town hold's glowing lamps. Are they trapped or are they willing? No one really wants to talk. A most uneasy feeling as by the ways we walk. Role play. I have often live written as a poet during role play sessions. I love it. It is exhausting, but it's so much fun. And the first poem that I'm going to share is actually the only one that I'm sharing that is not from the book. It's from last year's Fantasy Fair, And I want you to understand how impactful this one poem was. I was wandering around. I didn't know anyone at the fair. It was my third fair, but I didn't know anyone, basically, and I came across the Sindaria players. And there was a pixie there. Her name was Lady, and she is a pixie on acid. You know how pixies are. Well, I asked her to hold still for a minute so I could take a picture, and she agreed. And I wrote the poem, handed her the texture, and off I went. And later that night, I ran into the group of them with Dreamsphere, and I can't remember who else was there, but Dreamsphere was there for sure. And I made a comment, something along the lines of, well, I write poetry during role play. And she stopped and she goes, I think I could use that. So for the rest of the time that they were doing role play, I showed up and I messed with their story, and they continued to just love it, and met Scarlet Fae, the Queen of Sindaria, and moved to Sindaria the week after the events ended. The week after that, I came back in, and Scarlet excitedly said, I have something to show you. And she built me a gallery for my poems. And I don't know if I took over Sindaria or I stole it, or just exactly what happened there, but everything hinged on that one poem. And so I'm going to read this one because you never know how things are going to change in an instant and on a dime. I may not hold the threads of fate, but story I have aplenty. A glimpse of life, a secret held, respun into epics, where others speak, I listen. For who can know, are we in the presence of royalty or rogues? And if in happenstance we meet, what then? What changes even as we talk? What alliances formed? What friendships frayed? What battle planned? What journeys here postponed? I'm no one. I am everyone. I am a poet with her pen. Aw, thanks, Ami. The next one is Chaos and Order. It is from Zodiac, from Alia Baroque's Jail and Bail. I love his builds. I love his skins. I am such a fan, and he builds incredible things. One formless, one patterned, one whole, one shattered, one disarrayed, one sequence, one without fault, one filled with grievance. Chaos married order, each held the other dear, the antithesis of the other. They walked in the same sphere. Personal history. Let me be clear. If I'm going through it, I'm going to be writing about it. If there's something about writing that gets it out of my head and lets me let it go. I write, and I will self-publish anything that I write down. I seem to have no filter anymore about worrying what other people think about what I'm saying, and when I have been confronted about telling my own truth, I've said, they were the adults, I was the child, they had a choice to make this a different story. I am going to talk. And so, personal history, in this case, they're not so terribly personal, but some of the stuff I write is it tends to be very on the dark side, and I don't mind that. The two poems that I kind of identified from personal history was Fast Water and On Saying Never. And the first one is Fast Water. The water runs so fast, as if it were late, as if it had some place to go, as if hurrying will speed time, as if there is a reason, but it must part for the stationary stone. The stone is immobile, static, with no thought of time. Unmoving, it has its charge, but with patience and perception, stable and stoic, yet worn nevertheless by fast water. I agree with you, Arwen. I agree with you that stones have memories. There are rocks, I collect rocks and minerals. There are some that I hold on to that just, they feel right in my hand, and I know that there are memories there, so I would agree with that. On Saying Never, I sit down with a knife and fork to eat a dish hateful, hot, or cold, to consume the never I just uttered, and which I meant. Why must I be so foolish as to say that word where the universe can hear? God laughs and turns me on my head, serves me a full serving, then seconds, thirds, and fourths. You'd think I'd learn. I don't either, Arwen. Why can't I learn not to? I would never take $1 million from Bill Gates. Why can't that one work? Parodies. Now, there can be some confusion about parodies, and I have been called on the carpet by more people than I can count for taking a poem and writing a parody of it. And I will point out that parodies are legitimate on every level. Look at Weird Al Yankovic. I mean, parodies are legitimate. They are not rip-offs. But they're a place to go. What I found funny was both of these parodies happened on the same day. And I don't know if it was, again, because I was exhausted and was just scrounging for material. Part of it was because somebody had said something funny in the Fantasy Fair fans chat. The first one is the Raven Parody. Once upon the fair lands cheery, while I shopped wide-eyed and peery over many a quaint and curious door fronts of some now open store, while I nodded, nearly clapping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if something gently rapping on my wallet's door. 'Tis strange visitor, I wondered, tapping at my wallet's door? Only this and nothing more, said the vendor, buy some more. And the silken smooth and certain rustlings of leaving lindens thrilled me, filled me with fantastic pleasures rarely felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis a stranger," I muttered, tapping at my wallet's door. "Stranger, visitor, entreating entrance at my wallet's door," says the vendor, "buy some more." And so merrily I shop wide-eyed and peery. Nothing now can make me stop, and the lindens are retreating, ever ceding, making space inside my wallet poor. Says the vendor, buy some more. You have to listen to the vendors. The vendors are calling my name, I'm sure of it. Again, on one of the tours, Safia had pointed out that the bunnies are everywhere on the fairgrounds these days, and that they have taken over. And Sonia has this has this whole bundling army at her command, and in my head, I could just see these bundlings taking off from Elia and Sophia's sim and invading the fairground. This is the bundlings go to the fair, which is a riff on the Ancient Mariner. Day after day, once they got the notion, in fairland after fairland region, bundlings arrived with more in motion. Bundlings everywhere, some white, some blue, some bundlings everywhere, and how the Sims did shrink. In some dreams assured were of the blessings that gifted us so, left all wondering of their story, the bundling mistress happy though. I don't think they're chocolate, and I think if you start eating them, that Sonia will have something to say. It would be a terrible, terrible thing. Yes, they will scream so loud, and Sonia will hear them, and she will be angry and displeased, and then Elia will come after all of us, and it will be terrible. So don't leave the bunnies alone. They are friends, not food. Thank you, Gwen. So, yes, Vorpal bundlings. For sure, Vorpal bundlings. Duels. Now, I'm going to mention this because, but I don't have any examples of it. This is probably my favorite of all of my inspirations, and it is all, and I have not found this since I have been in Second Life. And that is where you have another poet in real time, in public, and you play off what the other person has written, and you go back and forth. And I've done this multiple times in other places. In one case, I had a friend who he and I would pull poetry out and just say the most awful things to each other, and it was in an MMO war game. So we would be fighting with each other, and our alliances are both ready to go to war because it looks like we're fighting so hard. He and I are laughing in IM because of what's going on. So anyway, duels is a legitimate flash poetry form. And if anybody wants to play, let me know. I'm so down. Yes, a wordsmith battle. And so, we come to the end, and before I open for questions, and I will first of all thank again Elizabeth and Safia for inviting me to speak and for putting the Songs of the Fair around the Fairlands. I want to thank Scarlett Faye for the beautiful frame and the presentation and the gift poem, for Amethyst Dream and Shoe for getting me into this mess in the first place. And I want to thank you all for attending. I will point out that there is a small gift poem down beside the large presentation board. You can buy it for 0 lindens. And Scarlett was gracious enough to build me a frame that did not come with a TOS that I could not give it away. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So are there questions that I can answer? Is there something that you want to know that I haven't covered? Oh, thank all of you. Really, honestly, thank all of you. Yes, dreams. Thank you, Arwen. Thank you, Elaine. Chu, you have been amazing. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Old. Thank you, Blue. Okay, so Dreams wants to know how long it takes me to write these and to fit them with the photo. Usually, if something comes into my head, I know what I'm looking for, so I'll write the poem and then I will go looking for an image. In the case of Songs of the Fair, I didn't have a lot of time to look, so I would take the image that I found and slap it in place. In other cases, I found the image and wrote to it in, and did it the other way around. It really just depends on the poem. Scarlett, right back at you. You are so wonderful. Thank you so much. Winter. Okay, I want to tell you something. Just write. You don't have to write like I do. Write like you do. If you have it in you to write, write. It doesn't have to be like me. This is I have been writing for more years than I can even count. Well, I can count actually. I've been writing since I was 11, and that was 4 decades ago or so. So, just continue to write. Lilia, you are I love you back. Thank you so much. And thank you, Madonna. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Habit. Everyone has their own voice. Arwen is absolutely right. Arwen is absolutely terrifically right. And there are so many poetry prompts at LitFest, and after LitFest is over, there are writing groups everywhere that will help you to own your craft. Good. I'm glad to hear that, Winter. I am so glad. Write. Just write. Yes, Safia is absolutely right. Thank you, Ami. And I'm so glad. You know what? I'm glad that I can make you. I'm glad that I can make you laugh. If I make you cry, I'm very sorry. But I'm glad that I can make you laugh.
Tears can be good. This is Safia coming back in, I think. Yes. I was going to say, if you look on the LitFest schedule page, you'll see details of some prompts that is going on from now till the end of the fair. If people have felt inspired to try some prompts for themselves, have a look at
Great
the
resource.
LitFest schedule page, and I think 8 a.m. tomorrow there's one, and hang on, I put the schedule up. Yes, there's one at 8 and there's another at 11. So, yeah.
Oh, Lilia. Lilia is also a writer, and I think that she had it. I think that she has it. Tears cleanse the blood, so does laughter, but it's more fun. I think that's very appropriate. Very appropriate. Anyone else? Anything else? Anyone want a mint? Aw, thanks, Dreams. I love to read my own work. I love to read. Oh, Arwen, that makes me happy too. You know what? I did too. I kept my work to myself. The first thing I ever wrote, I was 11. I showed it to my father and he laughed at me. And for the next 34 years, I hid everything that I wrote. I have a suitcase full of poems, a literal suitcase full of poetry. no one has ever seen. And then one day I just went, I need to know if I can do this or not. If this is, it's senseless just to be writing for myself. And I jumped and started sharing. And for a long time, I got a pat on the head. And isn't that sweet? I would write if I could. If I had time, I would write. And I knew that those people didn't understand me because I have to write. It's not if I have time. Even if I don't have time, I have to write. So here's the thing. Arwen, they aren't too sappy. They aren't. They are your voice. You have just not found an audience yet. Keep writing with your voice. Keep doing that thing. Because you will find your audience. I promise you, you will. But it's one of those things that you just have to keep after. And it's scary. Don't get me wrong. When I first did this, what actually happened was I decided to do a master's degree in writing to find out if I was a hack or not. And then they accepted me, and I immediately thought that they were a scam because if they accepted me, it must not be a very good program. But it was a very high standard academic program, and I will tell you honestly, there are days I think I'm a hack as well, but to this day I feel that way. But if we let our fears rule us, we are never going to go forward. And yes, Safia, it is my full intent that I will be back here next year with another Songs of the Fair. That is my goal. In the meantime, I'll be writing. My gallery is in Sandaria. I'm there a lot. I wander around, taking pictures and illustrating them, and you can read them there. I love having company. If you show up there, there is a very good chance that you will get rolled into a poem. I do that a lot. It is the occupational hazard of hanging around with me. Ask my Sandarian friends. Anyone else? Anything else? We are at the top of the hour. You know what, Arwen, I used to say that when I was playing Game of Thrones Ascent. I would say, do you want to be a hero? And I would write, because I don't want to be the hero. I want to be the poet. I want to be the one that's writing the story. I don't want to be in the light. So I would I would say, do you want to be a hero? Yep, I want to be the bard. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where I want to live as well. That's my happy place. And now I'm the poet, the court poet to the Queen of Sandaria. So, thank you again. I am going to turn off the mic. I'm lucky to have all of you. Thank you so much.